Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money. With your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hello. It's Tom here with episode 57 of Screw the Commute podcast. We got Carol McManus with us today. She is a good friend of mine and a prolific business person. I was on her former show 12 times, and this is her first, and I hope of many appearances on Screw the Commute. All right. Wow. Episode 56. I hope you didn't miss that. What a compelling story. Mike Domish was here, and in 1989, Mike's sister was raped, which kicked him off on a 20-plus year career reducing sexual assault, speaking at colleges and the military and corporations. And his story is great, and so are his business tips. That was episode 56. Go back and listen to that if you haven't. All right, our sponsor is kickstartcart.com, the shopping cart system I've been using and promoting for 16 years. Oh, that's actually longer now, probably 18 years now, because mere mortals can operate, all right? To be able to do many of the things I teach and talk about on this podcast, you need a good shopping cart system. And we give unlimited free one-on-one tutoring on the cart to get you up and running and help you figure things out fast. So get your 30-day free trial at kickstartcart.com. And of course, we'll have that in the show notes. This is episode 57. So it's screwthecommuteCom/57. All right, let's get to the main event. Carol McManus is an author, speaker, radio host, and social media consultant. She is the CEO of CKC Global Media, a branding and marketing company that helps individuals and companies reach new markets by elevating their message and amplifying their voice. Her newest book, Choices, this is about how real people share their stories of how they overcame challenges to design a better life. It's an international bestseller and a Bronze Award recipient from the Nonfiction Authors Association. Carol, are you ready to screw? The commute.
Yes,
I don't want your hubby beating me up over this.
I was going to say, Kevin will come after you.
I know. I don't want that. Hey, it's been a long time since we crossed paths, and I've been wondering what you've been up to. You've got this CKC Global Media. What's that all about? What are you up to?
Well, it's an evolution of the LinkedIn Lady. So any of your listeners who have heard my voice or, listened to the LinkedIn Lady show and heard your voice, know that that's what I was doing for a number of years. I really had morphed my coaching and consulting business into the social media space. And I was known for a pretty long time as America's LinkedIn Lady. And I still do that. But what happened as that business evolved and as social media became more commonplace, and it was, as we know, it's changed and people's expectations have changed. What happened was, much like how LinkedIn Lady came about, where people wanted to know how I did that, rather than just general business consulting, CKC is the next evolution of that. And what it is teaching businesses and entrepreneurs how I built and grew the LinkedIn Lady brand by using techniques such as publishing, broadcasting, speaking, and then I call social media the candy wrapper on how I market all of that to the world very affordably, very easily, very manageable, and just have a whole lot of fun doing it. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so even though you morphed away from that moniker, the LinkedIn Lady, the techniques apply to any kind of brand somebody would want to build, right?
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's about business branding and personal branding, because when you work with entrepreneurs, and you know this, Tom, it's as much your personal brand as it is your business brand. And that's where most of my clients are tapping into me.
How long did it take you to build that LinkedIn Lady brand?
It took probably about a year from the time the idea came about.
But you were figuring it out as you went, right?
Oh, yeah. I was figuring it out as I went, but I was the social media expert in very generic space, and I was trying to figure out how I could carve my space and differentiate myself. And it was actually an audience member who met me in the ladies' room after being on stage and
There's
turned
a
to
tip
me.
for you, everybody. Go in the ladies' room.
Go to the ladies' room, right?
Yes. And
no, but she
how about
turned
me? Could I do that?
Well, I would say that might be a problem, but the principle still works. But do
Okay.
it in the men's room.
All right.
But literally, she turned to me after I'd been on stage. I did a program called Linking, Friending, Tweeting. Oh, my. And this was back in 2009, probably late 2009. And because it was an audience of professionals, I biased my talk heavily toward LinkedIn and why it was important for professionals and people in the business to business, aka B2B space, to use LinkedIn. And she turned to me in the ladies' room while she's washing her hands and said, "Oh, you're the LinkedIn lady." And I smiled and I said, "Yes, I am." And that was the birth of the brand. And it took about a year. I socialized it. I tried it on for size. I did my research. I found out at the time I had literally no competition in LinkedIn because everybody wanted to own Facebook or Twitter. And it was literally in September of 2010 that I officially launched the website and started owning it. And then, the rest is sort of history. I spoke all over the country at many, many conferences. I started my radio show, did that for 8 years under, again, that brand, and just really, really built it by living the brand. And so it was me, but the LinkedIn lady was me, and Carol McManus was the LinkedIn lady. So they became interchangeable.
So I must not have been that big a deal. For 8 years, I was only on 12 times. I mean, geez, I thought you liked me better than that.
There is only one person that had more shows than you, and that one person had 13 shows. No. There was nobody else that was on as often as you. And you're so freaking busy. I would have had you on more often, but I couldn't always track you down.
Oh, look who's talking. How long have I been trying to get you on this show?
Well, that's true. That is true. Okay, mea culpa.
But you are the first one who's come up with the bathroom branding brand.
Oh, good. So we'll take that.
Right. And, people, this is why I get the big bucks. I bring on the people that give you stuff you never hear anywhere else. So now I think I know the answer to this, but have you ever had a job?
Oh, yeah. I had a job for a long time. I was a corporate junkie. In fact, when I went out on my own, I always referred to myself as a recovering corporate executive.
I tell people, they say, well, what do I miss from the corporate world? And they say the camaraderie and stuff. So I tell them, just go buy a water cooler and stand by it and gossip to yourself. And then you feel like you're back in the corporate.
And you know what I would add to that?
What's that?
When you look at your business card is big title, big check, big deal. You can do so much better on your own.
There you go. So tell us how that went, though, what you were doing. And then when, was there a moment that you decided to go on your own, or was it a transition period? How did that all work for you?
Well, it was sort of yes and yes. The answer is I had a big title and a lot of responsibility. I was the SVP of international operations for a large company, had a lot of responsibilities. I'd been with the same company for 26 years. Nothing bad to say. It was a great career, tremendous opportunities. I got to move and live in some really wonderful places. But I was ready to leave, and in fact was ready to leave in 2006. I was unbundling the group that I was responsible for at the time. And thought I was walking out the door then, and fate would have it, they brought me back into this final position, this SVP position.
SVP, Senior Vice President, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Sorry about that. Shouldn't use acronyms. That's rude to people. But this is as we were moving into the recession. And as the year progressed and we were eliminating positions by attrition and trying to get the redundancies, I call it the cubicle, downsizing. It got to the point where economically they knew they were going to have to be getting rid of some big payroll. And I raised my hand to my boss and said, put me on the list. And he said, you're kidding, right? And I said, no, I'm dead serious. I really, you need to get rid of payroll. I had a good run. I am fine walking out the door. And in fact, Tom, you know this better than anybody. I wanted to walk out the door. In fact, I wanted to run to the parking lot, but I had to remain the professional. So I didn't run. I just walked fast before they changed their mind.
Did you get any kind of severance package?
Oh,
or
yeah.
anything?
Yeah. And that was the other thing. I had, because I'd been with the company for so long, I have to, full confession here, I did have a year's salary and some other benefits that followed me for a period of time. And so I had a cushion. I had a jumping board. But I also was smart enough to know I had a good financial advisor, and my financial advisor says, put it in the bank and don't spend
Yeah,
it.
that money can go very fast.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're at home, you have nothing to do but order on Amazon.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So just to fast forward through all of it, I'm starting on my own. I knew I wanted to use my skill set as a coach, consultant, and did some leadership development at the time, which is sort of in the same wrapper. But I didn't have a marketing budget. So I turned to social media. I couldn't even spell social media at the time, but it worked. I was able to network and connect with people. And I didn't do a lot of fancy sales. I didn't know anything about sales letters and opt-in boxes and downloads. And I mean, that was still, except in the world of internet marketing, that was really not widely known
Right.
or widely practiced. So I just stumbled through, which I think is also the reason why LinkedIn resonated with me, because it was very civil. It wasn't the wild, wild west of Facebook, and MySpace was still out there at the time. And it also connected me with the people that I wanted to do business with, which were other businesses and other professionals. So it just spiraled forward. But my goal that first year was to do enough business to be able to replace my income. And I did that. And I did it through half of it actually came from leads off of LinkedIn. So proof positive, it works.
So you still keep up with all the changes in LinkedIn?
Less and less. I'm very pissed off at LinkedIn right now because I don't like a lot of the changes they've made. They've tried to turn it into a cheap sales machine with a lot of phony accounts and a lot of people that want to connect with you and then just pitch whatever it is they're pitching. And it's lost its magic and its value in being a true online professional network, because not everybody has time to go to BNI meetings or other networking events and go to all the chamber events to network, or they want to network outside of their geography. And LinkedIn was a great place to do that. It's I believe no longer as valuable, but that's me.
So what advice would you have for someone that's sitting in that cubicle now? Maybe they don't have a big severance package. What about working for themselves? What should they do to get ready to go into the world of no paycheck?
Well, find out how to do it right and do it quickly. And you're the king of this. The idea is take your knowledge, your expertise, your passion, your experience, find a way to package it and create something that people want and people will pay for. And then work with people like Tom, who are going to teach you how to do it. No, I'm serious, Tom.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. To teach you how to do it right, to be able to begin that passive income immediately. And if I were to roll back the clock and say what was the mistake that I made, it was that I wasted too much freaking time getting to that point because I was doing the time for dollar exchange. And I loved it. I mean, it's a great ego, boost to be on a stage and, have everybody applaud and stand up and cheer. And even if they run to the back of the room and buy something from you, it still takes a lot of time and energy and effort and expense because, a lot of the big conferences that would attract that type of commentary or expertise are all on the West Coast. Well, I live on the East Coast. So every time you go for a one-day conference, you're out of the office for 3 days.
Well, so, not only that, I hate to bring this up, but you had some health issues too that kept you from flying.
Yep. I lost a couple of years there where I couldn't fly. So it was like, okay. And that's when I actually got serious about the whole concept of passive income, because it's this whole idea that, yes, you can still be out there and work with people. And I still do that. And I love it because I love the interaction. But if I didn't have the passive income, I'd still be, quote unquote, chasing the dollar all the time.
Right. And I call it, for years, I've said this business that I've been in since the internet started around 1994 is like an insurance policy. And it happened like this past January when I got injured in a hunting accident. I was laid up, but a week after out of intensive care, I was still running my business on my laptop. Even though I could hardly get up to go to the bathroom. So a lot of people would be bankrupt. If that happened because they have no savings, they have no passive income, they're selling hours for dollars. So it paid off for both of us in that case. I really want to pound that point to everybody is that this is having what we call virtual real estate, bringing in money from all over the place. You're not even limited to a local economy. from all over the world you can bring in money. So it's very important. Give the folks some tips about how you work at home. What are some of the things that you do to make you productive, and any kind of tips that would help a person thinking about screwing that commute?
Well, the first one that I would give is probably so obvious people are going to laugh, but but if you miss it, you will not succeed.
You'll cry, probably.
Well, you will not succeed. And the simple answer is you got to treat your business as a business. You have to treat going to work as going to work. Now, instead of commuting 77 miles, which I did in my last corporate life, I commute 20 feet down the hall.
Right.
Okay. From one bedroom to an office, or a bedroom converted to an office. But I make a point of getting up, getting dressed, coming to my desk, and starting my business day on a regular basis. Now, that varies depending on the day. But I'm not in my pajamas at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'm not, I make a point of treating every day as a business day. And so that would be my first tip.
Have you run into where the neighbors and friends think, oh, well, since you're at home, let's go have lunch, let's go to the movies. Have you run into any of that?
Some.
Yeah, they don't realize you're working just because you're at home.
Yeah, I when I was in Connecticut, I had less of a problem with it because I really wasn't that close to a lot of my neighbors. When I moved to Pennsylvania, it's different. It's more rural. People are more social. So yes, that started up. But I'm very good at saying no in a very nice way and deferring and delaying, or not doing it all. So, and do not be afraid. This is actually maybe a tip. Don't be afraid to say, people, I would love to go have a cup of coffee with you, but I simply cannot do it now. I'm on a deadline. Whether you're on a deadline or not doesn't matter.
You're always on a deadline. That's true.
You're always on a deadline. Some self-imposed deadline.
Right.
Or I'm finishing a project for a client, or maybe you're creating a new product. Say, I would love to do it. And if you sincerely want to do it, then make a date, make an appointment, but do it at your convenience. In other words, what we're really saying, Tom, the tip is, and this would be tip number 2, don't let other people control your time. You have to control your time and calendar. And I don't care if you decide to work 2 hours a day or 20 hours a day. That's up to you. But if you want to be successful, there has to be discipline involved.
Yeah, one of my other friends. Oh, you might not know her, Carolyn De Posada. Her dad was Joaquin De Posada from NSA, and she gets up at 5, goes running, does all her work. So at 3 o'clock, she can go pick her kids and be mom the rest of the night. So you get to pick what you want to do.
Exactly, you get to pick what you want to do. And then the third tip, again, it's an obvious one, but it's one that a lot of people skip over, is be clear on your goals. But what I mean by that is not just filling out a goal sheet, which you might have learned at some point in time, took a class or had to do for a job. I'm talking about really having a clear vision of what your life's purpose is, what your business purpose is, what you want to accomplish, and how does that translate for you into either dollars or, objective and subjective satisfaction. Once you get clear on that, then everything else rolls from there. It becomes your beacon. This is why I get up every day. So the subjective things, I'm doing it for my kids. I'm doing it for my health. I'm doing it for my retirement. The objective things is, this is how much money I want to make. This is how many hours I want to work. This is what percentage of my time I want to give to philanthropic efforts. Whatever the it is, if you get clarity around that, then the work becomes so easy and so productive because you're always aiming at the same thing.
Great advice. And just to remind everybody, the full transcript of this will be in the show notes. This is episode 57. So screwthecommute.com/57. Because those are great tips that if you can't write them down and you're in the car or whatever, you can always visit the show notes later. Now, have you ever gotten screwed over in business?
Oh, of course. Who hasn't? You can't be in business and not get screwed over.
What'd you do about it?
Well, the first time I tried to fight it, it was chasing down a client who hadn't paid me. And I wasted way more time, and I fractured relationships that I learned looking back was stupid. So the second time the second time I thought I was going to get screwed, I sort of headed off at the pass. And I started offering my business and my services, and this is the time for dollars, not so much the online. But when you are dealing with people and you're dealing with PDFs or RFPs and contracts and expectations, You won't get screwed if you always give more than they expect, would be number one. You're going to minimize the number of people that are going to screw you. And if they do, then the easiest thing to do, Tom, and I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but it's cut your losses and walk away. Just cut your losses and walk away, because it's probably not worth the time, the aggravation, and the whatever you're going to get out of it isn't going to be worth what you had to do to either change your relationship, get paid on something you didn't get paid on. So by adopting that, I haven't been screwed since, because I do set different expectations. I price differently, all those things. But I also don't let that baggage weigh me down and get in the way of what I do want to accomplish. I take the position, it's their problem, not mine. Shame on them, but I'm moving on. And that has helped tremendously.
Yeah, and especially if you get attorneys involved, it could cost you more to recover.
Absolutely.
Less,
to recover less. And when you do recover, they're going to take a third of it anyway. So, move on.
All right. So anything funny, bizarre, crazy happened in your business life?
Funny, bizarre happened. Oh, God, where do I start? I think the funniest is, and I don't want to go into names here, and maybe it's more bizarre, is where I had a really unfortunate breakdown with someone I was working with as a coach. You know who it is. I don't want to get into names here, but it was it was bizarre in the sense that this coach was set up to help people grow their business. And when I took a path to grow my business, different audience, different target, different coast, but it became so competitive with this person that they basically made it got very ugly, very personal, and very destructive. And it was bizarre, but it was not funny. It was bizarre. And the most shocking thing was to realize that when you invest in people, and there was money invested in this relationship on my side, and time and personal commitment, only to have them basically not deliver on what you thought they were promising, it's very disappointing. And that's actually a different example where I probably put too much energy into trying to make it right, or at least and have it end civilly. And in looking back, it was a complete waste of time. So I just walked away finally.
Yeah, see, it's not bizarre to me because, I'm in that anti-scam business in my consumer advocate role and my seminar scam role. It doesn't surprise me a bit because these people were sociopathic and they have no goal other than to take your money, but they can put on any kind of face they want or they need to get your money. And then when they've tapped that out, boom, you're done. Your history, you don't even exist. So yeah, I'm very much against that. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but
it's a life lesson. It's a life lesson.
Yeah, everything makes you stronger. So what do you like best about working for yourself, and what's the worst part about working for yourself?
Well, the best part obviously is the freedom. I no longer have to go into, a corporate meeting or have a meeting with a boss or get permission to do things or have other people direct me to do things that either I don't want to do or don't think are right. And that's every day is not like that. But if you work for somebody else, there's going to be some element of that. So it's this whole point about being able to make my choices about not only what I want to do, but how I want to do it and how much of it I want to do and how I want to invest my time. So it's that freedom, but it's not the freedom to go play golf every day because I'm not like that. Now, for somebody else, maybe that's what they want to do. God bless. For me, it speaking strictly in the business, it's that freedom. Oh, and freedom to move. I can be nimble. I can move quickly if I see the market changing or I see an opportunity. And some people think I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm not. Everything that I've done has actually been pretty linear and connected, even though I've had different brands and done different things. They've all been connected and just a stage of growth. So in other words, I didn't want to be a horse jockey one day and a brain surgeon the next. There has been a continuity of my business experience and what I'm doing. But that's me. Some people want to do something completely different, and that's fine. The worst part about working for yourself, I think, probably goes back to knowing how to set boundaries, and being good with that and finding that way to communicate that to people. The coffee example, the interruption, the people wanting your time, the people, even simple things like email. Email is our best friend in many respects, but it can also be the biggest time sucker that there is. The beauty of new technology with texting and more electronic communication, you know me, Tom, I love to talk to people,
Right.
but talking on the phone all the time is for the most part, a big waste of time, of your business time. So being able to manage other people and their expectations of me and not disappoint and maintain the reputation and the image that you have, which I think I do have, of being open and giving and approachable and reachable and all those other wonderful things, but yet not have it take me off track in terms of my own goals. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes great sense, except I got to take exception with one thing you said about playing golf. I don't really like to play golf. I don't play golf. It takes too much time to suit me. But if you did want to play golf every day, I'd teach you, start a golf website and sell affiliates things and put golf articles on there and sell advertising. So you can make
there you go.
Yeah, see, for years I've been teaching people to make their hobbies legitimately tax deductible. I do it with tennis. And, I have that site, fatsotennis.com. And the protection dogs, all this stuff is legitimately tax deductible because I have websites and I sell products based around it or refer products based around it. So how can people work with you? How do they find you? What do you have that they might be able to enjoy, take advantage of more of your knowledge?
Well, what's really funny is, as with most businesses, and I remember learning this from you years ago, is you don't have to have all the answers or create all the products right from the get-go. You start the process, and then your clientele and your customers will tell you what they want.
Exactly.
So build it. It's not so much build it and they will come. Build it when they ask you for it. and I have followed that advice as much as I possibly can. And so in terms of where my business is going, it is absolutely still CKC Global Media. And I see that being sort of my brand that is going to stick because there's a lot of latitude there. But I started off pretty broad, trying to work with clients who wanted to say, okay, well, how can I be a speaker and how should I publish? And should I be a podcaster or a radio host? And how do I use social media? And it was what I realized, number one, it was too much, overwhelming for the clientele that I'm targeting, which again is small businesses and entrepreneurs. This is not corporate stuff. This is for real people like you and I, Tom.
Right.
And real people who have passions and control over their business and desire to get their message out there. My tagline is elevate your message, amplify your voice. I think you said that in the intro. So what I have found is what is most manageable and doable for people is really has fallen heavily into that publishing category. Now, that could be anything from as simple as how do I start writing articles and maybe start a blog to I want to be a published author. So the publishing side of my brand has really taken on some real serious sea legs. I've helped a lot of authors. So I've almost become a writing coach, not just on the techniques of writing, but also obviously the publishing process and helping them decide, do I want to self-publish? Do I want to go with a hybrid publisher, which for your listeners who don't know, that's a pay-to-play format where you pay in to the publisher, but they are legitimate in the sense that they will get you out there distributed through traditional channels. And they have the potential, if your goal is to be in Barnes & Noble or Costco, they have the potential to get you there. And then, of course, if you want to get an agent and go for the Simon & Schuster or the Macmillan contract, we can teach you how to do that too. So that's where I'm seeing a lot of my business drawn to. The speaking piece is on a small scale. I do some local workshops, but I'm not really right now producing products. God knows I don't need to because you've got them all on speaking.
Refer them to me for affiliate
I just want to
commission.
sell. Yeah, exactly. I just want to sell your products because they're so good, so good, folks. If you haven't read them. A lot of what I thought I was a pretty good speaker to begin with, and I know how to speak, but speaking, there's a difference between the business of speaking and the technique of speaking. And you, Tom, address both of those things.
Yeah,
and
they're critical for your long-term success. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But what I'm doing is more local. How do you get up and introduce yourself at a Rotary meeting? And it's amazing how many people just can't do that. But that leads to other opportunities, because if you can present yourself well on a small scale, it opens up opportunities, for your business and for your personal life. The podcasting and radio, I'm promoting that as a concept. I'm actually going to be doing a new show this year with PBS here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. So I'm going to, I went from a little AM station in Greenwich, Connecticut to internet radio. Loved it. I was very successful. It did a lot for my business and my branding, but it was a lot of commitment, a lot of responsibility. And as my brand changed, the LinkedIn Lady branding no longer made sense to me. So I retired that show about a year, maybe almost a year and a half ago. So what I'm going to be doing now is a new show with local PBS called Express Yourself. And it will be both broadcast as well as PBS. It'll be a once a week show. And the concept is to have people on as guests who have different ways to express themselves. So the Express Yourself could be through speaking. It could be through writing. It could be through products, because you're expressing yourself and you're putting yourself out there.
About artists.
And artists, absolutely. It's a pretty inclusive title, so I'm going to have some fun with this.
Could be a juggler.
Yeah, well, that is true. How do you express yourself? How do you get on America's Got Talent? Might be the question of the summer.
Well, let me ask you about the PBS thing. How does one land a PBS gig? How does that happen?
I can tell you, in my case, it was quite accidental. I was invited to be interviewed on a local PBS, because, our PBS NPR station, it's actually quite large. It covers 22 counties in northeastern Pennsylvania and into the fringes of southern New York and across the Delaware River. So this is a big station. I mean, when I say big station, their building is about 30,000 square feet. Wow. Okay, this is a big station. I was invited to do an interview for an event I was doing this summer called AuthorFest here, a local event for authors, mostly local and regional authors, and they were helping us promote it. Well, in the conversation, we were on a local show called The Art Scene. And that's all this host does, is she talks about things that are happening, in our case, in northeastern Pennsylvania. So it's not a syndicatable kind of show. But in talking with them and realizing the footprint and the things that they are doing in TV, in video, in podcast, in live radio, in everything, I was telling them about my background, and they approached me and said, "Would you be interested in doing a show for us?" And I was shocked, because like you said, how does one get a gig with PBS? And the answer is, I would say you're not going to start there. The standards are pretty high, but they listened to a few of my shows from the past, realized I could probably put a sentence together, and I could interview somebody, and that it might. And what I wanted to do was, because I actually had this idea of Express Yourself, but I was going to do it just in a straight podcast form and do it on my own. And house it on my website. And they got me excited about the fact that, no, this has legs, and this is something you need to do. And, so whether it'll ever be syndicated down the road, who knows? But right now I would be thrilled to do it, here in the Northeast. So I'll probably be starting that in the next couple of months.
Okay. Yeah, this is ringing a bell with me. I got a call from PBS, and they said, "Hey, would you do a show for us? We heard you on the LinkedIn Lady show." And I said, no, call Carol. She'll do it. No. So
I owe it all to you, right? Is that what you're telling me?
No, that's cool. Now, everything she talked about, folks, we'll have links in the show notes. And this is episode 57. So it's screwthecommute.com/57. We got to take a break for a few shout outs and our sponsor. When we come back, we're going to ask Carol to tell us what a typical day looks like for her and how she stays motivated. But I want to tell you about some of the folks that helped kick off Screw the Commute podcast. Thule Garner from expandyourterritory.com helps consultants and entrepreneurs turn their expertise into books, speeches, and training materials. Not exactly like Carol does. There's folks that do this, and they all have different bents on things. Donna Marie Lano, that's Laino, and that's her website, DonnaMarieLano.com. She's the co-author of Your Shift Matters.
Oh, cute.
turning burnouts and breakdowns into breakthroughs. And then Rosalind Sadaka is the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network. You can pick up Rosalind's free ebook on post-divorce parenting at childcentereddivorce.com. So those are some folks that helped get this podcast going. Now, our sponsor, and I want to tell you about this lady. I got a call from a lady. It wasn't a LinkedIn lady. It was just a lady who was paying $4,000 a month for a part-time person to operate her shopping cart system, and she wasn't even using half of what it could do. And that's in addition to the $300 to $400 per month she was paying for the system. This is highway robbery, folks. I mean, she got sucked into a big company, aggressively marketing to people that didn't know any better, and she got taken for a ride. The system I promote for all these years and use myself to this day is kickstartcart.com. It costs 1/3 the price, and with our unlimited one-on-one tutoring, you'll be able to easily operate it yourself. So get your 30-day free trial at kickstartcart.com, kickstartcart.com. All right, back to the main event. Carol McManus is here. And Carol, what's a typical day look like for you? Let's do two of them. Let's say if you're on the road working, typical day, and then if you're home working, what's a typical day look like?
Well, the typical day on the road, which I'm doing a lot less of, because that was one of my goals, is I just don't want to travel anymore like I did, and I don't have to. That's the other beautiful thing about screwing the commute, is that you have that choice. And again, I always say choice because if you want to do it, go for it. But when I am on the road, I always have work with me. So if I'm flying, it's really easy because you've got your tablet, you've got your whatever. My mind is always going. And I learned a long time ago that when you have an idea, a seed of an idea, you want to capture it in the moment, because you'll never remember it again. And it may not go anywhere, and that's okay. But if you don't write it down or capture it on a little voice recorder on your phone, or some people still carry their little Olympus recorders, whatever your style is, make sure you capture it. So that's one thing. But that's
different than acting on every idea you have every 5 minutes.
Totally different.
Nobody ever gets anything done. That's looking, the squirrel or the shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. And that is a trap that you can fall into when you're on your own, because you do, you have an idea, or you talk to somebody and they make a suggestion and you go, oh, that's really cool. And then you run off in a direction. So a typical day for me when I'm on the road which isn't very often because I don't do that much anymore, but I do try to take work with me and capture it either in writing or on a recorder on my phone or on my little Olympus, which I still do carry. But I don't always act on all those ideas. I think the important thing is just to keep things salting away, sort of like your idea file. And electronic, devices have helped us capture that stuff much, much easier than we could in the old days when it was all about Post-it notes and notebooks. But that would be an idea on the road. But the other thing that I do is I make a point of talking to people, starting conversations, not being obnoxious, but, when you're on a plane or standing in line or waiting for something, you will be amazed at how much you can learn from people. And by the way, I don't stick my hand out and start telling them how wonderful I am and everything I do. In fact, I will often walk away from a conversation and the person won't know anything about me, because I am a curious person. I like to ask people, oh, why are you going to, Chicago? Or, just something about them. What do you do for a living? Tell me about yourself. And that usually opens the door to some type of a conversation. So be a listener. That would be my...
Here's a good one not to say. Hey, who'd you vote for?
Yeah, that's not a good starter
Say
conversation.
It really loud.
Yeah, not a good starter conversation. And if you have very strong opinions one way or the other, it can very much alienate people and destroy conversations. But again, be curious. Don't be afraid to talk to people. And so that would be on the road. As far as typical day, which is more common for me, of what do I do here? I rely on my calendar, I rely on my email, and I rely on my phone.
What time do you get up?
Well, I get up early because, I have a dog. So I'm always up by 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier, but no later than 6 o'clock. I'll have my coffee. I'll probably watch a few minutes of the news, mostly to see the weather more than anything else. Then I get dressed. I'm almost always at my desk by 7:30.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that is part of my success as an entrepreneur because I start with a fresh mind and a fresh start. And it's not about 7:30. It's whatever day your time starts, but get done the important things first because it energizes you and makes you feel so productive. And it also relieves the guilt if you look at the clock at 11 o'clock and say, well, I had a full day. You know what? I'm going to go play this afternoon. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to go play golf. It takes that guilt away. So that would be a typical day for me. And I do that since relocating to Pennsylvania, a lot of that time, that non-work time has become philanthropic. I run 2 writers groups. I'm involved in a couple of events. I talked about Author Fest this fall. I'm doing Milford Readers and Writers Festival. I run the marketing committee for our local, it's called the Downtown Hawley Partnership, which is our version of a chamber. And then I draw my limits. That's how I not only give back, but use my skill set to do things that I want to do and make connections. And every one of those volunteer things has led to some piece of business for me, some opportunity. And that's my choice. Other people either don't feel they can afford the time to do that. I didn't in my first couple of years because I was too busy trying to build a business and chase a dollar. I didn't have time to volunteer. But now I'm at a point because of a lot of the things I learned from Tom. I'm at the point now where I don't have to worry if how much time I give because I know that I've got my income at a level where it's comfortable, it's continuous, and I can do as much or little as I want to with my business time. And to me, that would be the ultimate goal for people. The whole thing comes down to be in control.
And the cost of living is less where you move to, right?
Usually less. Yeah, that was one of the strategic
reasons. Yeah, a lot of these places, it's just impossible. You have to make a fortune just to break even or still lose money. I was hearing yesterday on the radio that people making $120,000 a year are getting food stamps in California and stuff. I mean,
scary, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, because, and I know, I make a lot of money, but I know things can cost a lot of money. And I think the state tax was 13.5% alone. And all the other taxes and city taxes and real estate taxes and everything. It can make sense, folks, to move to an area where you don't have to make a fortune just to lose money. And so any parting thoughts for our screwballs thinking about either getting into business or improving their business?
The most important one, and I said it before, is tap into what you're passionate about because your probability of success is going to skyrocket if you really care deeply about what it is you're doing. When you become an entrepreneur, especially if you are one of these listeners who has left a more traditional job, it can be scary. It is going to come with pain and suffering and obstacles and challenges. But if you are really passionate about it, it's no longer a job. It's not even a career. It becomes the essence of who you are, and you will get joy from that, which will help you power through all the challenges that you're going to have along the way. And then that breakthrough point, the other thing that I would say is stick with it until you have that breakthrough. I mean, Tom, you and I have both heard this many times over the years. There's so many people that stop running just before they reach the finish line. And whatever you're doing, the payoff is there. And, I can't tell you, Tom can't tell you whether it's going to come in a month or 6 months or a year, but it will come if you pay attention, refine your business, and stick to it. And just have fun doing it. Have fun.
Very well said. Man. I do. I can't go 5 minutes without laughing at something. So Carol, great catching up with you. Thanks so much for blessing everybody with your knowledge and your inspiration. We really appreciate it. Make sure everybody check the show notes. This is episode 57. You'll get access to all Carol's contact and all the things she has available for you to help you. And she's very good at helping you. I don't have people on the show that aren't reputable and have a lot of track record behind them. So check her stuff out. Also, get your free trial of kickstartcart.com. If you're serious about online business, this handles all your email, your selling, your upselling, all the things I've talked about in this podcast on my Monday training sessions. And speaking of that, this coming Monday, I'm going to give you the ins and outs of list building. And still to this day, the gold is in the list. I'm going to show you how to mine some of that gold on Monday. So please subscribe and review if you don't know how to do it. We have instructions at screwthecommute.com. Thanks to Carol. Check out her stuff, and I'll catch you all on the Monday training session. See you later.